4, 3, 2, 1. Overtime.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Overtime, the podcast that discusses all things competitive TF2. This episode is going over coaching. My name is Warped, and I'm a coach from EU. And joining me over the pond, we have Just Jazz and Wild Rumpus. If you'd like to introduce yourselves, just a little bit about yourself. We'll start
Sure,
Just Jazz. Thank you.
sure. Yeah. My name's Just Jazz. I've been involved with the competitive scene for almost a decade now. Med main by trade. And I've mentored various teams. In my actual professional life, I coach soccer for a living.
Oh, wow.
I'm a U.S. soccer C license coach, as well as having done various other things within my federation here in Mississippi, and have taken a fair amount of coaching courses. So, been trying to apply that methodology to TF2 when possible, and it's been interesting.
Oh, wow. That's pretty keen. Okay, I did not know that. That's most impressive. I think I've probably been coaching for around the same sort of time, around 10 years. But Wild Rumpus, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Rumpus. And I honestly don't really have extra coaching credentials. It's just
Yeah,
that
same.
I also make YouTube videos, and as a result, well, YouTube videos where I talk about the game and the metagame. And as a result, I have a lot of people reach out and ask for coaching, demo reviews, etc. I do enjoy it. I kind of like the approach of sort of breaking the game down rather than just being like, okay, do this in this situation, more so like the do this because of this, and like giving people the building blocks so like they can kind of coach themselves at a certain point.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, definitely. Same here. I think that's my kind of primary, uh, my main sort of go-to is that I'll break it down by like the concepts and the principles, then go into the details. So I find that's like, my approach with it. Um, so Just Jazz, I'm like interested. So what got you into coaching? Because it seems to be like a really big part of you. It's like,
Um, yeah, I think my natural tendency, just on an individual level, is I like to help people, and I like to, in whatever way I can make them better at a certain thing. I take a lot of value out of that. So coaching, uh, I guess before I talk about the coaching, like right now I'm going back to school so that I can become a therapist, a counselor. So it's like it's so deeply ingrained with me, and coaching both TF2 and football is a um, I guess a proxy for that, right?
yeah,
There's something really rewarding within the TF2 or soccer, football. I call it football. In my life, there's something really
yeah,
rewarding when coaching football about teaching kids a concept or showing them something, and then you can see them trying and trying to figure it out, and then they have that breakthrough moment in a game, in a practice, what have you, where it's like, oh shit, it's like it's that little dopamine hit. And so
yeah,
um, within the football context, I see my role as developing players, but also developing I've been working with U14s and U12s this season, helping develop young men as well. And it's the same if I was coaching a girls team. And within the context of TF2, like it's helping players get better at a game that I have loved for a long time. And when I can see them implement stuff that we talk about in demo reviews, or when I do a bit of live coaching in scrims, it's like it's just immensely enjoyable. And I've been very lucky. I've seen a lot of players go on to be 1,000 times better than I could ever hope to be.
oh,
Um,
same.
you know,
Oh,
and that
I,
that
I
that's the most rewarding thing.
yeah, no, I resonate quite a lot with that. I mean, before I got into like TF2, I was doing a lot of bouldering. I ended up kind of coaching the new people there. It's just something I enjoy. Uh, so yeah, I do completely agree with you. Rumpus, do you do any other forms of coaching, or is it just sort of TF2 and more
Really,
to the
it's
YouTube
just
part? Or
TF2.
yeah,
I like. Um, I guess I also kind of have that like teaching bug a little bit, just because it's fun to explain concepts and things that are easier to understand than on face value. Because it does also demonstrate like a level of understanding that you have to be able to break things down and explain them to others.
yeah, definitely. I mean, you need to have a firm grasp of something in order to explain it to someone. So I find when I was coaching other people, it kind of helped me in my own game quite a bit because I would like notice things. That that said, I did coach an open team once, and I saw a Solly try something, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna try this in a game." I like lost a round
Yeah.
in an official in Remington by doing that. So maybe not
Yeah.
all the influences are good, but yeah,
Well,
all right,
that's just part of it too. Is like
yeah,
you when coaching, you have to give them some level of a framework that they're operating within. But
yeah,
then
definitely,
they're so like that's the what. Like, what are we trying to do? Well, we're trying to capture the point, and then the how of how they're doing that. Be it really aggressive or really passive or whatever. Like that's up to them as long as they have this overarching framework in mind of like
yes.
what we're trying to do. So
Yeah, I think having that perspective of like what's actually important in this situation, like what are the key things here. In terms of like frameworks, I want to bring one that I use when teaching like particularly like newer teams. Um, I don't quite know what it is in NA. In EU, we call it like open or low teams. I don't know if the
mhm.
terminology is the same, but
Yeah,
for newer
we use
teams,
that.
I get asked a ton about mid fights. And one of the things that I like to do is just structure the mid fights in just like two ways, either left side, right side, and then slow or fast.
Mhm.
And essentially, if you think about it like on process, you either roll out kind of left side and kind of blob together as a team, go left or go right. And then depending where the enemies are, if they meet you on the left side, I would say then that would be a fast mid. So left side fast where you want to go quick into them versus if they're on the right side, then it would be a slow one. So it's just not about um, initiating super quick. So that's like a framework where, in higher divs it's not necessarily true, but I think as like a building block, as a base, I found that really useful for teams. It just means they're all coordinated and they know, hey, we're on Sunshine, we're rolling out choke, we're going right side, and they're there. We're gonna meet them. We're gonna do right side fast mid, and I've just given that to quite a lot of newer teams to just approach the mid, so everyone has a structure for it and like an understanding, and then they can like build on it. If that makes sense. So I wonder if you two have anything sort of similar to that.
Um, so I will coach teams as a whole occasionally, but more often than not, it's just demo players specifically asking for demo advice. So I don't often get asked the mid questions like that. But I am always like a big proponent of just double bomb walk forward on a mid, just
Yeah,
because it's such an
True.
easy plan to follow. And I think that at a higher level, a lot of teams get success with playing more reactively. Like, for example, on a process mid, let's say a soldier has a habit of rolling out to your IT and then threatening to go behind or something like that. And you can really play around that and sort of counter that specific plan. But like at a lower level, teams are just not going to be like coordinated enough or equipped enough or even know like what they should be doing otherwise on a mid to be able to like have that level of specificity. So just having like something really easy to follow and still
yeah,
good is nice.
Yeah, I think on the question of mids, in some ways to reiterate what Rumpus said, just giving them some basic frameworks to work with, like, you know, double bomb walk across is easy enough for all right, soldiers, all right, we're gonna bomb at 35. And then once they call that then directs their teammates' attention to where they have to go then push. Um, but I think something that's kind of interesting with you, Warped, is that you're kind of circling around the idea of position as a concept,
Yeah.
right? Where we can push, where we can go in a map, on the field, so to speak, is relative to where the other team is as well, right? And so
Yeah.
there's sometimes where position is okay. Well, we can't go into them because they're going on the right, and if we go on the right, that triggers a fight. And then there's sometimes where we have to go into them, or we want to go into them, because we want that piece of positioning. So I think in some ways I've done this a little bit, with teams, is just teaching them that, you're reacting to what the other team is doing, and they're reacting to you. And if the goal of the mid is to Cat's on my desk. Sorry, Beans, you can't be on my desk. I'll send a photo to Beth Nix, and he can post a picture of Beans at that exact moment. So, in the YouTube video, but understanding that their position has, various consequences, and to, not just pay attention to like what's going on in mid. Okay, if they're going to the left and we're going to the right, we can take it slow, but also like what are the second and third order consequences of their positioning being such, or even the positioning being like, okay, well, if we're going left and our soldier gets on red crate versus the awning, like how does that actually change the dynamic of the fight? Which at a low level will probably be like, that'll go over their head, but like at a higher level, that's those little positional nuances become all the more important. And so, when they learn that, and when you're going and coaching, kind of rambling at this point, that can, be things to pick up on. I don't know how to close that sentence off.
Yeah.
But...
No. I mean, I completely agree. One thing that's like coming to my mind listening to this is this kind of, I've mentioned it as one of the points, but the kind of rigid approach to certain things, and there's a bit of like an inherent like, I can't think of the word, but with kind of doing demo reviews and saying like, hey, this is what we need to do in this situation. Like, let's say with a mid fight where we're going to do the double bomb at like the 35 seconds. It's like you won't necessarily know in game if that would be the best like approach to it.
Yeah.
I like, you can't say that anything that you plan in advance in a demo review will actually be the best thing there. So I think, yeah, at a higher level, you do want to be more reactive and kind of see, but I think this is maybe where you can still have a lot of the concepts in mind and kind of carry those forwards. But yeah,
Well,
it's
that kind of gets into this idea. If I'm translating some of my football stuff to TF2, of this idea of, team intentions. So what we intend on doing, right? So,
yeah,
with football, when we have the ball, we're attacking, right? Because the other team doesn't have the ball and they want to get the ball back. So our intention is to arrive in front of the goal, ideally with as few defenders between the player on ball and the goal as possible, right? And then if we're defending, our intention is to block the goal. And then, so if that's the attacking and defensive team intentions, and there's also that then gets into the room of, individual intentions, attacking and defending, right? So
yeah,
translate that to TF2. When we're attacking, i.e., we're pushing into an area, or we're fighting for control over the point that the other team is defending, our intention ultimately has to be to capture the point. That's the overarching goal. And then so that's our what. Our how then is entirely dependent on the context of the game, right? You could have an attacking push where they're down 3, but they have uber advantage, right? So then you have to play differently, or you're pushing in and they have no advantage, but they have 6 up, right? And so, that has to be the first point of contention when or not contention, but whatever. The first thing in mind when pushing or retreating is like, we have to capture the point, and everything else is the application of what is going to get us the point, right? It can be killing everybody, it can be just getting them to fuck off, which is more than valid. And from there, breaking it down into individual intentions. Okay, our soldiers will bomb in to create space or to force an engagement. Our pocket scout will play close, until whatever X trigger. Um, and once players have that framework in mind of, okay, this is what our overarching goal is, that then gives them the freedom to go and experiment and see what works and see what doesn't work. And I find too often when I watch people demo review, and this is no disrespect to them, they are applying their own experience within the game to somebody who's not as good as them. And they don't recognize that their experience within TF2 isn't necessarily knowledge of TF2, because they're two different things, right? Experience isn't knowledge, and knowledge only comes as a result of reflecting on that experience. So you watch a guy doing a demo review, you double bombed in, and what you should have done is done X or Y. And so, they're not understanding the decision making process, and then they're giving a prescription without understanding like the ailment beforehand.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I absolutely love that. That's it's kind of like a situation that's coming to mind that I'm talk about. Like, while you were talking, I was trying to think about like what are the kind of concepts or principles that you would try to get everyone on the same page about. And for me, one of them, I think, this is probably an American term, the pressure cooker. And so, one thing that I see particularly at like a lower level is, oh, they've sent a sack into us on second. We're going to reply by sending a sack back into mid, and you just kind of throw these soldier chess pieces at each other, and don't really get much done. But what I like to teach there is kind of like the pressure cooker, where you want to then, because they're down an explosive, they can no longer watch all three chokes. That they can't really stuff all of them. So when you pressure as a team, you're going to be able to find that sort of opening. But in practice, how that actually looks will there's so much nuance and variety there that you can't really say what it should be. But if you just understand that you will pressure all the doors on the same timing, so you communicate that, then there will be an opening somewhere, and then it just becomes about execution. So um, that's one that I quite like to talk about with newer teams.
I actually kind of do the opposite
Oh,
because I find that because I think that pressuring is like rather than just kind of mindlessly sending sacks is obviously like a more productive plan. And for like a map like Gully Last, like that is a very easy thing to pull off. But I find that when I watch like newer teams, a lot of the time they'll get into like a last stalemate position and then just kind of like do nothing for like
yep.
until the reset. And I do think that teaching them something, like having some idea in their head where once they get in that position, it clicks like, oh, we can be doing this thing. Let's start doing a thing rather
Yeah.
than just doing nothing at all. But like there are times that a team on last will just like not have a sentry gun, and then a team will still just be kind of flopping around trying to like figure something out and like attempt a pressure or something, but in reality someone just over peeks a door and dies, compared to like no, that like they don't have a sentry gun. Like that is the thing that makes double sacks not as good. You can just without thought double sack into that and like be pretty
Yes.
happy.
Yeah, 100%. Like, if I'm watching a team where there's a situation like that, I will just get like an instinct of, oh, please just do this. It's like, as a player, you'll just over time get that understanding of like how to punish that. But I think it's tricky to necessarily tell people all these individual things beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that kind of ties nicely into two concepts. So again, going back to this idea of attacking team intentions, right? If we're pushing last, our ultimate goal is to capture the last point. And from there, you can almost think of there's like a checklist that you now have to run through of like, is there a gun? Is there heavy? Where are they positioned? Are they positioned close? Are they positioned far? Right? All of these things give you information by which you can make a decision and then execute. And so that then that that little sentence segues nicely into um, what does a TF2 action actually consist of, right? What when a player rockets jumps or shoots something, like they're not just doing it randomly, right? So every player at all times is going through in football nomenclature what we would call CDE, communication, decision, execution, right? It's a three phase cycle where the communication, we're gathering information. They have no gun. Their med's positioned by spawn. Their demo is extended far close to shutter, right? Right. So that's the information we've been given, and we're all fully buffed. Right. Now the decision is, okay, if our soldier is sacking, where is he going to sack to? He can sack on the med's close to safety, but the demo's a free pick, right? And then the execution of that, which is the jump from river wall onto the demo at shutter, right? Something like that. So too often, I feel like when, again, watching demo reviews, I hear a lot of prescription rather than a lot of questioning, which we would call reference reference coaching. So coaching in reference to what we've just seen. So instead of what I found effective is, instead of being like, oh well, they don't have a gun in the med's position, go sack on the demo. You pause the demo review, you give them like a large third person view of the situation, and be like, if our goal here is to push last, right, and we need to find an opening, what would be the best thing for us to kill right now that would give us opportunity to take space? And then like just allow players to have that exploration process. Now they have to think about the game.
Yes.
Right. If they're not thinking about the game, if it's just, we'll fucking do this, then you're letting them borrow a bit of experience that they're not going to metabolize, as quickly. Whereas like if you allow them the opportunity to think intellectually about the game, oh shit, well the demo's just standing by himself. Brilliant. Okay, cool. How could you then break that? Okay, well, our soldier can sack, and maybe our scout can peek from shutter or drop down, whatever. And so the learning process for players when you're coaching them, it has to be a collaboration and not just like a dictation, right?
Yes.
You have to be asking players and allowing them to think about the game, because that also then becomes something, if you're doing something like live coaching, or when they're actually in game, they then start to think about, okay, well, who's positioned where? Like what information is the game giving us that will allow us to make a better decision that we can then execute, right? If we're only ever looking at the execution side of things, like we're missing the full picture. There's so many times I've both in soccer and in TF2 where it's like, it's such a simple question that people forget to ask. What did you see there that made you make that decision, right? Because sometimes players will have a really good rationale for why they made a decision, and the execution of it was off. Oh, well, I saw the med was standing close, and then I tried to rocket jump, and I just failed my bomb. Okay, fucking brilliant. Then the decision, the communication, the decision was right. It's just the execution was off. Or then sometimes they have a totally wild rationale for why they made a decision, and like the decision might be wrong, or maybe they're misreading the communication, but like they're still reading it, and then that's your opportunity to go in and coach them in reference to that. Okay, well, what could you have done differently? Did you consider these things, et cetera, et cetera? Because then again, once the players are allowed to think about their game in terms of, our goal is to capture the point, and this is what it is, like, that then again gives them the freedom to choose their own how, and just allows them to develop into hopefully what we call self-regulating players, something that Rumpus alluded to, players who are able to observe their actions in or after action and then course correct as necessary.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. There was I do that during demo reviews where I would just pause it and then I'll just ask the team. Like, I'll go into question time, and it's brilliant. It's really funny. Some of the responses are absolutely wild,
Yeah.
but it's a great like opportunity to then engage them because like as you said, you don't want to just be like, oh, you should have bombed the demo here. It's by getting them to engage with it, they're gonna take more from the demo review and they're gonna then be able to apply that
Yeah.
like into their own game. So again, that's definitely something that I will do while coaching teams. Um, just kind of ask, what do you think you should do here? And
Yeah.
it's interesting because like how they rationalize something is not necessarily what I would expect a lot of the time. Um,
Yeah, and then it once you give them the principles and the framework, like the game is there for them to enjoy, and part of that enjoyment comes from like figuring out things as a team, both on a team and an individual level. The first time I ever attempted this was when I had just started doing a lot of the coaching courses. I think I just gotten my U.S. Soccer D license, which was about 2 or 3 years ago, and I remember I was watching a demo of this open team. They were on Metalworks trying to break into Metalworks second, and so like I walked everybody through their positioning, right? So it was the combo in alley and one soldier in the doorway to the bridge, and then one going lower, and then I'm like, okay, well, based off of this, you know, what are we seeing that would allow us to push? And then they gave some answers. I'm like, okay, let's zoom in a little bit more. What could you guys do in order to get the sack off here? Like, where are people going to pressure? And then all of a sudden, they came up with like two different ways of pressuring into two that like they were able to then go and try in the next couple scrims, and they worked brilliantly. It was something like demo spamming from the doorway, and the soldier comes in and sacks, but then the other soldier, the scout, walks in through underpass and like pops up on the pipes in front of the shutter, and fucking it becomes this big pincer play. And like they messaged me a few scrims later, and they're just like, man, we keep on doing this, and like it the
it
other teams
keeps
don't know how to
working.
deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at that point it's just like keep doing it until it stops working, and then
Adjust.
then yeah, and then you guys
Build
can
on it.
then try to figure out like, okay, now it stopped working, how can we change this to get more efficacy out of it? And so, if it was me before I'd done any of it, would be like, oh, you need to do this and this and this and this, and this is what's going to happen. And then it's like they've not learned anything. You're just telling them how to play the game, but like you're not playing the game. Like they're playing the game. They have to figure out these things for themselves because players have different tendencies and different demeanors. So give them a framework, give them a structure, let them experiment, and then when it works, brilliant. When it doesn't work, reflect on it.
I'm feeling like super validated right now because these are a lot of ways I like to approach the coaching, but I've never had any like training in it. But yeah, 100% like the concepts, like the principles, kind of drill those in. And then yeah, I like that we both have the technique of like asking them questions to like engage them. Rumpus, do you have any kind of habits like that that you like to do?
Honestly, I don't really ask questions like that, and I probably should because that's a good idea. Um, but I just try to do it. So if I'm ever saying like a thing to do, like, oh, this is like a strong thing to do in this situation, I like give the why so
Yeah.
that all those whys can kind of like link together and you see those patterns of like, okay, well, like I am on this class which is good at doing this thing and my team is relying me on me to do this thing. So in all these different situations I can kind of see how that materializes and where it's sort of um the same plan and where it is different based on the context and whatnot.
Mhm.
Yeah, getting the kind of reasonings across rather than being super prescriptive of you do this. I was going to ask a question to you both, which is what is like the most common question that is maybe annoying, the most annoying question you get asked. For me, I don't know if it's annoying because it's kind of a good teaching point, but I constantly get asked, where do I stand to hold sewers or hold IT or wherever? And it's just like it's I don't know, it's not that simple. It's like there isn't
Hmm.
just one place to hold that would be better than any other. It's so dependent on the context, like, and everything kind of has a trade-off. There's no perfect way of holding anything. It's just,
One thing that I
yeah,
do like, and it was something I was thinking of earlier when Jazz was talking about positioning, is I appreciate the fact that when you are actually like in the game showing someone something through your eyes, like it seems like everyone can intuitively understand what is or isn't good positioning, where you can show someone like, yeah, you were standing here, and then you move to where like a more robust position is, and it's like you could stand here and like do all the same things, and it seems almost immediately apparent, like, oh yeah, like everything just opens up. I get to see more. I like have just way more options and all that.
yeah.
And I do like that as far as positioning is concerned, it is almost like self-evident in a sense when it's actually shown.
That's interesting. Yeah, for me, I mean, some positioning like is just obviously better than others because it like serves the same function but just does it a bit better.
Hmm.
I mean, for me, positioning, whenever I get asked that, it's usually, and because it won't be 100% of the time, I often for soldiers like to say like closer usually is better, as you get the early spot, you get the info. It gives you opportunities because you're like in a position to then, if they've sacked someone, you could immediately go for a flank or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it gives you options. You can see you get early spam. It's just I can kind of list all the reasons why I like that. Doesn't apply for everywhere. There are certain positions where you kind of need to give them space. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I like to get those sorts of reasons across. But
I do
I
admittedly think it is more relevant for demo, I guess,
yeah,
because a thing that I have for a lot of demo players specifically is how on the class, like positioning and DM all really tie together, where demos who like don't charge their stickies and don't like flick their stickies at all find themselves just walking so close that they can hit players without charging, and it puts them in like really
yeah,
bad positions.
yeah.
So being able to like show like, yeah, you can literally hit that same guy over there in just about the same amount of time, but from somewhere where it's safe.
Yeah,
uh,
this is.
uh,
Oh, sorry. I mean, for me with like a demo positioning, because I don't play the class, I struggle to kind of
Mm,
give specifics. One thing I do say is sometimes that I'll kind of draw a line and be like, if you're behind this line, you're safe. I'm thinking of like Sunshine Last.
mhm.
It's like you kind of don't want to extend past this line because you can get caught. But in terms of like class specifics that aren't soldier, I really struggle to give advice for that stuff like ammo management as demo on a mid fight. I'm going to be useless. Like I'm aware of it,
Fucking nightmare.
but like but that sort of thing. So that's I tend to just do either soldier or like kind of the full team. But sorry to cut you off, Jazz. Was there
No, no.
something you wanted to come in on?
Yeah, well, again, this is firing neurons in my brain. So there was something that I was working on a few weeks ago that I'm still kind of like poking away at, and it's um, so if we zoom back in or zoom out, if we reconsider the concept of communication, decision, execution, right?
Yeah,
Within the execution phase, there is in football what we call PMDS: position, moment, direction, speed, right? And so within the execution of an action, position is always the most important, is always the first thing and the most important thing, because where you are in physical space determines what the actual action you can take is. And then moment, when do I do it? As soon as possible, as late as necessary. Direction, which way am I going? And speed, how fast am I doing it? And if we think about positioning, when I get asked a question like that, of like, where do I need to position myself? You can give them some. I don't know if you guys heard that car just speed by my house. Fucking
oh,
hell.
rude.
A really cool guy making his motor really loud on our small residential street. Anyway,
what a legend.
Yeah, absolute legend. But with positioning, when people, oh well, where should I stand? Um, you can kind of give them some basic ideas, but I've started to implement some positioning principles as well. So it's like with soldier defending process last, door 5. Ideally, you want your positioning to be as close as possible to keep them from getting through the doorway, but as far as necessary to keep yourself from not being in unnecessary danger. Same thing
Mm.
with med. Where do I need to position myself when pushing? As close as possible to the players who are going to be taking the most damage that are priority healing, demo, scout, etc. As far away as necessary in order for you to not take unnecessary risk. Right? Demo, as close as possible to give your stickies and pipes the likelihood of doing the most damage as far as necessary to keep yourself from dying stupidly, right? And so that then, just like the idea of team intentions, gives them a framework that they can work in. Okay, well, they think about, well, I need to be as close as possible as far as needed. And then they die. It's like, okay, well, was I as far as I needed to be in order to minimize the risk to myself? Sometimes the answer is no, because you were very far forward, but sometimes the answer is yes, and it was just a breakdown in like the team function of like denying them the ability to get to you, or denying the ability to get to the point, or winning the fight, whatever. um, and it then becomes again something where they're given freedom to go play the game and explore around with what works and what doesn't, and then when it works, brilliant, they're able to build off of that, and when it doesn't work, they're able to then reflect upon that and figure out ways that they can make it better. Or when you go into a demo review, then okay, well, here's your positioning. You then have something that you can coach in reference to, which again just gives them the freedom to go explore the game for themselves.
It's really funny that you are able to kind of relate it to football so easily, because I find a lot of concepts from TF2 do apply to other things as well, and like vice versa. Like chess
Mhm.
is another one. The amount of things that overlap between chess and sixes is kind of silly. Like same principles, like keeping the tension and things. But I've recently been getting into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and the
Nice.
amount of similar concepts of this one that we're talking about, like being close versus giving them space. It's kind of like, for me, a lot of the times being close and kind of maintaining that tension and pressure is usually the best thing. Sometimes you do want to give space. Kind of the worst thing is to be like in the middle, not doing either. And I'd say that's the same for TF2, because a really hard question I'd get asked is if a team's like you're holding disad and a team are pushing into you with Uberad, do you either hold close or do you hold far back? Or like if your player's down, yeah, maybe that's a better situation. So if your player's down holding a mid and they're pushing in, do you like hold close to deny them the space early, or do you kind of give them some space and so that you're then able to trade into them? Um,
Mm.
and it's a question that is I find really tricky to answer. I've been on teams that prefer doing one or the other, but I think it's kind of either, but just so long as it's like not the middle ground of kind of doing
Mm.
neither.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so that
and
yeah.
it's also contextual too, like if it's even Ubers, you're down one, and you hold close, what are the tendencies of the other team? Like who are the difference makers on there? Who do we not have, right? Because
Yeah.
not having the pocket soldier versus not having the demo like necessitates two different types of holds, or could necessitate two different types of holds. And so that then it goes back to this idea of CDE on a team level. What information is the game giving us? Uber ad, Uber disad, player up, player down, their positioning, our positioning, our health, their health, our ammo, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All these things are we become kind of unconscious to, and it becomes intuitive. Um, but it yeah it's a difficult thing. It's
Yeah.
you just have to give them that framework and the freedom, and then let them go succeed or fail, and then there's going to be another point, but I'm Still waking up,
That's
I
just,
guess.
yeah, no.
Oh no. I was gonna quickly
Yeah.
talk about like the application of the football stuff into TF2. It was interesting because when I started doing, like, I come into coaching football from a non-football background. I just love the sport, and so I just got into it because I was on a walkabout at the park one day and I saw the team's training, and so I was like, who do I have to talk to get involved? And now I'm the social media director for the club, so go figure. Um,
Awesome.
but you know, when I was doing all the coaching courses early on, because my football references were so low, like I had to translate this stuff into TF2 in order for it to make sense to me. And so as I dug deeper, the more I realized there's a lot more applicability. Even the concept of, if we go back to what I mentioned earlier, when we have the ball, we're attacking, and the other team is defending, and then when they have the ball, they're attacking and we're defending. You know, there's a level of applicability of that into TF2 as well.
100%.
There's like if one team is attacking, the other team is necessarily defending. What's up, Witness? And then in between that phase is like a transition phase where teams are, okay, we've just got enough kills in order to necessitate the transition from mid into two, or we've lost enough people in this push that we're now on a defensive transition. And it was like, once I started trying to translate these concepts over, I'm just like, the fundamental thing that I realized is that we, on a community-wide level, there are individuals who are not, this doesn't apply to, but in general, on a community-wide level, we're teaching the game backwards. We're giving players a worse coaching experience than what they deserve. A lot of demo reviews I see are more the demo reviewer flexing their knowledge, or rather their experience, and not actually giving players the opportunity, the framework to go and improve. Even something as innocuous as, like, you see a guy doing a demo review, and he's listing everything that is breaking down for the team, as opposed to like zooming in on two things. Like when I coach soccer and I'm forming my sessions, I'm not forming, oh well, my team sucks, so we have to get better. It's like, well, what does my team suck at? Okay, we suck at breaking into the opponent's final third in wide areas, right? And so I then design sessions based off of that. Same thing with TF2. You know, if a team asks me to do a demo review, first question is, what do you guys suck at? Like, what is the big pain point? Oh, well, we really suck at pushing into second on process. Okay, brilliant. Then, like, I'll fuck off the mids unless it's like absolutely necessary, and like we'll just really zoom in onto two. We'll think about, like, again, if what's the team intention? Capture the point. What do we need to do that? A laundry list of things, but like let's zoom in on like where the breakdown is, and then we'll watch a scrim, and then when we get to two, then it's like that's when I really zoom in, and like otherwise I'm like just trying to focus on general, like small general things, instead of like we suck so bad we have to fix the entire thing. No, break it down into things that we can work on, and work on that, and then once you fix one problem, more problems are going to rise, and then you can just build on top of that, instead of being this holistic, we're going to focus on everything, and as a result nothing gets focused.
You focus on nothing. Yeah,
exactly.
So speaking of bad demo reviewers, hi Witness, nice of you to join us.
Hey, what's up? Yeah, sorry, I slept past my alarm. Oops.
No worries at all. I thought this was tomorrow. I'm also like recovering from a sickness with a sore throat. It was originally scheduled for 5 a.m. So the fact that we're all here is amazing.
We are killing it right now. We're killing it.
I wanna take
Do you
a
want
second.
to introduce yourself?
You know, give me a second. I want to take a second to say this. I'm in the background recording. Everybody knows that. But we've been planning this for like weeks. I'm so glad that Witness finally got to show up and everything.
We're killing it.
Yeah, definitely introduce yourself, and we can keep the episode rolling.
Yeah, I mean, my name's Witness. I'm a former team manager for Witness Gaming, and I've been coaching teams in TF2 for almost, I think, 8 or 9 years at this point. Started out doing a lot of Highlander coaching, and I mean, I've done so many like newbie drives at this point. I think I've done four or five. So a lot of my coaching experience is kind of helping people at that kind of introductory level to middle level. Because I think that there's a lot teaching that area kind of brings me the most joy, you know. So that's pretty much my background in the game and coaching history for what it's worth.
And I
Yeah, no, awesome.
promise,
Yeah.
and I promise we won't have another surprise anymore. So let's keep going.
I can't. I'll call up Jay or something here. We can get a full party going.
Whoop, whoop.
Get some
Coaching
MVM.
party. It's like a meeting in the
Yeah.
library with nerds. I just to bring it back, I will ask you some questions, Witness. But one thing I wanted
Yeah.
to bring back to what Jazz was saying, I really like to give the most fundamental principle to me when I'm kind of teaching newer teams. And I'll admit this, if you look up how to improve at Quake, there's a video on this, and the guy basically goes into people put too much emphasis on like mechanics or positioning or all these different things, but he really breaks the game down into situation and response. So what you were saying earlier there, Jazz, with like the team struggling to push Snakewater second, that's a situation, and so you then need a response to it. So for me, whenever I'm doing a demo review, one question I keep asking them is, what is the situation? Because we mentioned like asking them questions before. That's the most common question I ask them, is to build up like an awareness of what the situation is, so then they can start building up responses to it, if that makes sense. So for me, that's like really, really, really fundamental. I don't know if anyone has any kind of thoughts on that.
Well, yeah, it just goes back to the CDE, right? Communication, decision, execution, and like the game presents the problems to you, right? And from there, you then have to make a decision on an individual and team level of how best to solve the problem, right? If again the problem, we use Snakewater, is we need to push into two and they're down one, like, okay, well, what information does the game give us that would tell us where we can push, or tell us like, is this push even on? Because sometimes you can have a player advantage, but the push isn't on for multiple positional or whatever reasons. And so,
no ammo.
yeah, me last night playing soldier, I got class restricted off of med in amateur, and like, so I'm having to play soldier this season. It's my first ever combat season
Ooh.
after like 8 years of playing TF2. So I'm in my own struggle bus at the moment, but
Right. If you need a Soli coach, let me know.
I might have to hit you up. I was like every now and then I'd look at the right hand side of my screen and I'm like, I've got 4 rockets loaded and 5 remaining. Like, I need to get better at this.
Hey, at least you have 4 rockets loaded.
Yes, correct. And then I only use one of them when bombing and like take absolutely zero space. But yeah, it's going back to what you're talking about, like, it's situation response. I think it's that you're missing one key component there. Situation response reflect, right?
Oh, okay.
Why did something work?
Yep.
Right. Why did something not work? If you're not reflecting on your action, either as a player or as a team, like, what happens is your scrims end up being you guys running the same script a lot.
Yes.
Right. And you can then improve, because naturally the mind is going to intuit what's working, what's not working. But like, you can think of it as taking the stairs versus taking the escalator. Right.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Reflection allows you to start to be more consciously competent, right? A lot of players, and I would say even at a high level, are unconsciously incompetent relative to their division, relative to
Yep.
their actual skill level. And so in the reflection process, they then have the opportunity to become consciously competent. And then as coaches, we have the opportunity to speed up that adaptation process as well by, again, asking questions in reference to the situation. And the goal of the coach should be, can I help these players become unconsciously competent at a skill, or even better, consciously unconsciously competent. So I'm conscious of the fact that I'm unconsciously competent at whatever action, right?
Whoa, that's
You know?
like next level. Yeah, if
Yeah.
people haven't heard that before, if you've never like driven, you start off as like unconsciously and then like not competent, then you become aware that you're not competent when you start driving, and then after a certain process you become consciously competent, but the kind of end goal is that you become like subconscious, non-consciously competent,
Yeah.
and that you just kind of enter a flow state. I mean, I
Yeah.
certainly do when I'm playing TF2. My goal
Yeah,
is to
like
just
that's a
just get into a
concept.
flow state.
That's a concept by coaching educator Raymond Verheen, which one coaching book I would recommend to everybody if they can get a copy of it is Football Coaching Theory by Raymond Verheen. It's my fucking Bible, really. And so when players start out, as you say, they start out as like unconsciously incompetent, and then they become consciously incompetent, and then again, our goal is to help them develop in a way where they become consciously incompetent, unconsciously competent, so on and so forth. And you know, the coaching the coaching becomes like the multiplier. You can really make a lot of difference in a shorter amount of time versus with good coaching than you would if they were just playing. Because players will
Yeah,
improve by playing. Like that's just how it
yeah,
works. Like you think of how you
yeah,
got good at TF2 in pubs because you played a lot, you got smoked, and then you
yeah.
learned how to be better, right? But then when somebody comes along and they have more knowledge than you and are able to impart that knowledge, and it's like you can climb the ranks relatively quickly in terms of game insight, and from there on out, it's just like just just keep on improving and reflecting. Reflecting is huge.
Yeah,
Reflecting is
yeah.
absolutely huge.
Your part on reflecting there is really brilliant because I don't think about that when I'm teaching it, but of course the teaching part is the reflecting part. But
Yep.
I'm gonna be a bit nerdy. I absolutely love the I don't know if you've heard of Alex Hormozy, but he talks about
Name rings a
intelligence.
bell.
He's one of like the podcaster bro people. He's very like
Okay.
ruthless businessman. But something I really liked from him was that he kind of defines learning as kind of information, or the same information, but you've now got a new behavior. So if you do a demo review and you hear a lot of words being said, but you don't implement any change, then you've not learned anything. And he defines intelligence as that rate of learning. So it's how
Mhm.
quickly can you reflect and pick up these new behaviors. And the quicker you can do that, the kind of quicker you can improve. So yeah, I just love that. The situation, response, reflect. I think that I'm going to update my my core principle to that. Just yeah,
That's also why when you're demo reviewing and coaching a team, you really only want to zoom in on a few concepts. Because
yeah, you don't want to
if you
overload them.
if you just information dump like fucking hell, like I'm gonna forget all of it. But like when it's something that is again pushing into process or Snakewater 2, where we all agree that that's the pain point, like the ability for teams and players to retain that and then implement it and then learn from it is just that much higher. Like no
Yeah,
information dumping is the enemy in my
yeah,
opinion.
100%. I just want to bring in Witness because he's not had too much of a chance.
Yeah, sure.
So what's like? I'll give a question I asked earlier that kind of skimmed over was do you have like an annoying question or like a funny question that you get asked as a coach? Kind of grind your gears, anything like that?
An annoying question that I get as a coach. Hmm.
Or something that you see when coaching people that just drives you mad.
You know, I think uh, the biggest, like, it kind of varies on skill level, but and I'm not sure if I posted this already for like a discussion point, but it's kind of like having to teach people to unlearn something. Because the most awkward situation I think I ever have with specifically TF2 coaching, and this can apply to some like other games or other sports as well, is, oh, well, my friend or my old coach said this, and I'm gonna do this. So
Yep.
you're wrong, and I'm not gonna do it. Then it's like, oh, well, that's a barrier, so we're gonna have to work around that. Um, I
100%.
I think I said it in the chat for like coaching. I think we need to gatekeep coaching more. Because like one issue I do have a lot in the Team Fortress is I do see a lot of, you know, and this is great. I think everybody needs to kind of get their feet wet at some point, but these people who coach, let's say you're like a main player coaching, or I'm not sure if there's main anymore, and everything's like so jumbled. You're like coaching one div below, but the players might be better than you, and you're kind of in a position where like you're kind of getting like homie advice, and they kind of take your advice to heart, and that kind of builds a bad habit. So whenever somebody else comes along, they have to help you unlearn that habit, and it's always kind of a bitter pill in those situations to be like, hey, your friend was giving you advice, but it was bad advice. You know?
Guess what? Your friend's a fucking idiot.
Yeah, it's always kind of like that. And I could kind of go back to you guys are talking about in length of like study sessions, like don't overload people. Um, about a year ago, I did a lot of work with Overwatch, and specifically Collegiate Overwatch, and I worked on Luminosity as a player manager. I wasn't the coach. One of the coach there was Unter, and Christopher were both coaches I worked with. Real ball players know those two are part of a podcast called. They had an Overwatch podcast with Commander X. And real ball players know Commander X used to be old Prem head back in the day. Going back to topic though, every single time we did VOD was no longer than 45 minutes. Like that's like the hard rule is we are not going to spend over an hour talking about something, because it's like you've probably already scrimmed or you have other stuff going on in your day. In this case for Overwatch, it was like, you know, you do 8 hours of classes, you play a 4-hour block, you know, because we did 1 2-hour scrim into 1 2-hour scrim into like VOD review afterward. You know, most people are just done after that.
Wow.
So it's like, yeah, definitely agree with putting a limit on just how hard people cram stuff. I think one question I get a lot is actually I'm not sure if this has been brought up yet, and you guys maybe have gotten this question a lot, but how do you main call?
Ooh.
That's
Yeah, that's a good one.
that's always a question I get, and I'm like, somebody will send me like a doc, and somebody wrote like a whole like dissertation on main calling.
Yeah. I've got one of those as well.
Yeah. Every coach got the dissertation on main calling, bro. Everyone's got one somewhere. I bet I have one in my Google Docs somewhere. But it's just that's like one of the staple questions, and you know, the more I coach in TF2, the more I talk to people, the more it's kind of like, you know, you guys know that I'm pretty heavily involved with Witness Gaming Europe, right?
Mhm.
So
Yes.
like,
It's in the name, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
obviously, yeah. But you know, I'll be in scrims like in Spec and Mumble, you know. And one thing I really took away from like that's just like, first of all, like a really deep well to just absorb from, you know,
Oh,
because
wow.
because
Thomas, Pappy,
you're
insane.
hearing, yeah, you're hearing like Thomas, Poppy, and Lucas barely pay attention to like just how they want to approach certain situations, and going into like big lands, like whenever we were like getting ready for Denver for like the first couple months, the biggest thing we decided to work on was communication, right? Like getting a proper like communication structure within the team. Um, and
Really
that's
hear it. You can really hear it with them. I say to
yeah,
people that ask me about comms, I keep bringing it up because anytime I've talked with Thomas or Pappy about the game, it's absolutely just they just open like doors. It's always super inspiring. But I always say, like with a few things, like if your soldiers decide blocking last, you just listen to the Witness Gaming soldiers be like, "I'm blocking first. Can you block? Okay, I can't block first. Can you block first?" And it's like, "I blocked. You need," and then it's like they just have this like so dialed in where they're just bombing
oh
like the
yeah,
important thing about that dance in particular. That's just like one example. But yeah, their
yeah.
comms on Witness Gaming are so much better than a lot of other teams. There's no unnecessary clutter. You know, it's just brilliant. I highly encourage new players that are interested in comms main calling to, if they can ever find a scrim that's been either streamed or recorded from Witness, to watch that and listen to that back.
Kind of building on that. Um, I always do kind of bring those comms up to people. And one of the biggest things with that main calling question that I get that's somewhat annoying is, well, do you want to learn how to main call, or do you want to learn how to like micro call? Because I think a lot of people at lower levels, it's like, oh, I'm the main caller, I'm saying everything, which can be true to a degree, but a lot of newer players and a lot of like coaches, I think, don't necessarily kind of highlight the importance of like good questions and good listening, right? Because the best players are good listeners.
Yes.
Oh,
If you say, "Can I do X?" or "I'm doing Y," that makes main calling a lot easier. I mean, good teams like Furio have like 6 people who are all independently skilled and can do anything at any time. And the minute they say they want to do something, like a good main caller, Banny, right? Um, can adjust his calls to fit whatever his player sees, right?
yep.
I think stuff like that is kind of maybe not underexplored because I'm not in other people's coaching sessions, obviously, but that's something I teach a lot of newer players, like just at the start is, hey, there has to be a good bridge of asking questions if you're looking to make a proactive play, or if you see it like an opening, you need to be like, I'm doing this, please help.
Yeah.
I have
Um,
line 7 of the main calling dissertation. In order to be a good main caller, you must be a good listener. Yeah, listen back to the team, all that.
I feel like that would be
Yeah,
line one.
Yeah, probably.
Because I feel like with main calling, one the style of main call I think is almost class dependent, right? How a scout would main call versus how a med would main call, or it can be two different styles. Like I remember watching God, who's that old French med? Nox. There's a brilliant VOD. Oh, Noxy, what a med. Where Nox is like the main caller. It's like it's like old granary, and he's main calling for the team. And what he was doing was it was just absorption. Like all of his players would feed him information, and then he would make the decision on like, okay, we're gonna push out of into mid through death corner instead of going through garage, right? And it was just like this constant flow of information for him to then make a decision on to get his team all aligned. Whereas like, sometimes I see with like a pocket scout main caller, they're much more, since they have the furthest eyes on the battlefield, they're able to call out the more micro style, and like they're still getting the information fed into them, but they're also seeing that information with their own eyes. And it's like, how to main call is dependent on the player, dependent on the team, dependent on the class. um, but I agree with Witness and you as well, Warped, where it's like, you know um, the questions and like the proactivity, and then like the recognition of the main caller themselves to be like, okay, my player is doing this, I have to adjust my calling and my positioning and our team's positioning on the basis of that.
Yeah. Sorry, I did just go AFK for 1 second. Sorry if I've missed anything.
It was
One
a
thing I
brilliant
wanted
point
to...
for the record.
Oh, okay. I'm sure it was. I'm very much done at that. I'd say for me, if I'm giving advice on main calling, it's not a question I get asked too often, which is funny. But if what I tend to say is I stray away from the micros a lot. Like sometimes there's a really good reason to give a micro. Like you just have some information that you know that you can see that someone can go for a back cap or something. But generally, it's like I like to get them to just say what that situation is of this, the situation, response, reflect. Just, oh, we've got add, we're pushing lower, like as a combo or something. And just to give those overarching instructions. And also, a fun or kind of an interesting little point is to not be too overzealous with the comms and kind of try to do everything yourself. Oh, hey, we're going to go take this Uber trade, and you're the pocket scout, and then you take the trade and you do all this. It's like trust your team to kind of do stuff as well. Those are kind of my main points for it.
I have been meaning to make a video on like comms in general, which would include like what main calling looks like. And I'm of the opinion that, and this is partly informed from teams I've been on, where we play generally pretty like flowcharty, and in a given situation, we already know what doors we like pushing or doing or whatever. So we kind of already all know what is about to be called. But I think that when you're actually like a really, really unproductive main caller is someone who's going to try and coordinate every single thing of a push, like in a micro sense, I suppose, but also in just like a we don't know what this push is supposed to look like type of deal, where you can cut down on so many unnecessary comms in game just through reviews and being like, okay, when it's disad on this point, this is what I want our team to look like with these players here, etc. And then when you're in the game, instead of having to articulate any of that, you just say, okay, let's play disad. And then everyone already knows what that means.
Yep.
And I think that like a main caller is, from my experience, really good when they're kind of just coordinating things rather than like having to get into specifics. And like if you are getting into specifics, it's only like one or two things where it's like, okay, in this Uber, can you do this instead of like the normal thing while this guy does this? And then it's like, okay, yeah, sure.
100% just providing the structure for the team. That's how I think I'd probably word it.
I would almost say, I mean, this is like lukewarm take podcast slot. Main calling is different at every level, right? Every team kind of needs different, or I would almost kind of view it in my eyes as like every team at every level needs main calling, like needs a main calling approach a little bit different. Because I feel like at a lower level, some teams just need more like kind of like what Rumpus said, more kind of like this is our like box and this is what we're looking to do in this situation. But as you kind of get better, I think you can kind of break away from that and kind of find yourself in a position where you can be like, oh, these players already know the situation and know what they need to do. So you can make a lot more like smaller adjustments the better your team is, right?
Yeah.
I guess is kind of the lukewarm take there. So learning how to main call a newcomer is probably a lot harder than learning how to main call like a higher level.
Yeah,
I think what it fundamentally boils down to is main calling and just in general comms are your team's way of aligning everybody's behaviors.
Yeah.
And that a good main caller is able to intake information and make a decision, and then like again CDE, right? The communication is the verbal communication in the game state. The decision is what do we have to do, and then the execution is like what he's saying, what they're saying, right? And a good main caller, I think a good main caller can be micro, and I think a good main caller can just be a macro caller. What's more important is, are they communicating it effectively, Is it done in a quick enough manner that the team is able to like react and then play around it? And then the question also then becomes like, are their players attuned enough to the main caller's comms that like when he says, all right, we're holding, this is this side, we're holding back, like they're able to reposition themselves as well?
Yeah, I
Um,
think comms in general are just about being on the same page, which can mean coordinating specific things during a fight or coordinating the timing of a push or whatever. Or it could just mean like making sure that relevant information is like shared among everyone. Because like
Yeah.
better players are gonna make better decisions based on having more information. And if your flank scout sees something that's maybe kind of important and then just doesn't say it because they're like a quiet player or
mhm.
something, then you can get into
Yep.
trouble as a result.
Yeah, it's not just on the main caller to make decisions as well. If that flank scout that's quiet sees something and can say, just Uber through the hair, like they can relay that 100%.
Yeah.
That's another part with main calling though, as you kind of mentioned, like the quiet, like a quiet flank scout. It exists in EU as well. Um, but I think main calling, like keeping not only like the team's behaviors in check, but the emotions as well. Like not tilting, like for me is like a massive part of it. Like keeping it fun, keeping everyone kind of focused and locked in. I think are some interesting like social aspects to it that you wouldn't think of normally, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I
it
generally am particular about the teams I play on, so like I'm not playing on the teams where people are like mega tilting,
Tilted
but
and yeah.
it is valuable to have a caller who can just like tell someone to grow up and like actually play the game instead of just cry.
Yeah, yeah, it's tricky finding emotionally stable new TF2 teams though. I don't
I
know if it exists.
Yeah, these kids are
th-
too soft nowadays. I remember a long time ago. You guys ever hit like a coaching flow state where you're talking to like maybe like a lower to mid level team and you just kind of like are spewing like out word vomit, but then you actually hit like
Yep.
something that sounds pretty
Yep.
good.
yeah.
Yep.
So I was in that flow state about a year ago, and I think this is still like brilliant. I don't know where it came from, but I said they were asking me like how do you tolerate playing on a team with people you don't like, who might have like
Sorry.
who might have like mental problems or mental problems, I guess, both kinds. Um, um, and I had said that there has to be like a middle ground if you're truly looking to win, um, where good teams kind of have to reach this middle ground where everyone has to be able to tolerate each other in the game to be good. Because I really don't think there's a single like top level TF2 team that has not had like one guy who maybe doesn't like another guy just even a little bit, but you put it aside because you want to win, right?
Yeah.
I think this is more exemplified in Highlander because there's more people per team. Um, but even like in like some, I would say high level sixes, like sixes teams don't have to be like super friend teams, right? Like I would say like even like teams like Froyo weren't like about. Well, no, I mean I wasn't on a team. I wasn't in the mumble, but like I would imagine like some Froyo teams weren't like super Froyo family teams. You know,
Definitely, yeah.
like somebody probably didn't like somebody too much and kind of favored to hang out with them outside of mumble or whatever. You know what I mean? But whenever you're in the team mumble and you're playing, you put that to the side and you just focus on winning. You know.
Yeah, are you on a try hard team or a fun team? There's no
And no
middle
matter
ground. It's
what, like
one or the other.
those, I think a reason why a lot of teams die when they start losing is because those sort of interpersonal conflicts are much easier pills to swallow when you win.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think on the question of like in-game management, one useful phrase I guess it comes from a concept is that I always, when I'm on a team, I don't really like to main call on med, but I can. But when I notice people are getting focused on things that are not relevant to what is going on in the game, I just have to just be like, next action, next action, next action. Just thinking about like, what do we have to do right now? Because you're fundamentally only thinking of one of two things when you're playing the game. You're either thinking about your next action, what do I have to do now in this situation, or you're thinking about a distraction, right? And if you're thinking about a distraction, that's when the game really starts to get away from you, and you can become emotional about it because you're not focused on, okay, now I have to hold on to, so I got to be close to the door or whatever
One thing that came to mind when Witness was talking about VOD reviews is, do you guys ever have the situation come up where a team asks you to review a demo or a VOD or whatever, and you realize pretty quickly that what they're looking for is not actually a solution, but like who to blame in the situation that went wrong? And they're like hyper focusing on that situation when
Yeah.
90% of the time as well, like the answer is either player is correct as long as that was what the plan was, and the
They're in
issue is like
agreement.
you were on different pages.
So I kind of have a unique style of. I mean, it's probably not unique. I would say it's kind of like. I'm not aggressive when I VOD review, but I do kind of put on like a streamer persona whenever I'm like really over the top. I'm yelling at, not yelling. I've yelled to like get people's attention. It's like coaching equivalent of jiggling keys to make sure people pay attention.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
coaching can be dull. You need to keep it engaging.
So what? And I have had that happen where it's like people are looking to scapegoat, and you can kind of feel the vibe whenever you kind of get that, So I usually look for what led to that and try and like make it a team learning experience rather than just like making one person kind of feel bad, because I truthfully believe that like every bad thing happens because something worse happened prior to it.
Yeah.
Unless it's just like an egregious misunderstanding of the situation,
Yeah, it's definitely possible for people to just have like an individual blunder, but when people are like looking to blame, there's the tensions in the team, but something that it's a bit of a weird take, but if you kind of say, oh, it's their fault, then you've kind of given agency of the situation to them. It's like, oh, we're losing because of this player. And then you kind of lose your power. So for me, I kind of like to say, even if like my flank scout like made a mistake, I like to think, what could I have done to like have stopped this happening? So it's this kind of, if you don't try to give everyone else blame, but kind of take on that yourself, take on that responsibility, you can then get more agency and kind of get more out of it. So that's something I like to tell people when I can see that they're looking for someone to blame, if that makes sense.
Yeah. To be fair, I don't think I've ever had anybody come up to me and say, "This guy on our team fucking sucks and he's the problem."
I've had that.
But I've never had that. like
I've had
straight
teams
up.
I've played on kind of do that thing to other
Yeah,
people.
both.
Yeah.
Both.
It's rough.
Yeah, I never had that happen directly. Thank God.
Yeah,
But yeah, as you were
sure.
saying, like most of the time it really is like people
Yeah.
focus on, should this guy have like bombed this or this, when in reality it's like you guys were already fucked. Like you just
Yeah.
weren't even tracking
Yeah.
Uber on
Well,
the previous point.
Yeah.
kind of in that scenario, it's like I feel like in that situation, if I'm like a leader figure on a team, or if I'm a coach, and somebody comes up to me, my default is usually try and like find a way to kind of keep the other person humble too, to kind of keep it.
Yeah.
Hey, you're pointing out this guy's problem, which I think is great, and I like that you're vocal about it. But here's some things I noticed about you too. How about we all sit in a VOD and go for it, and we can all have like a little shindig.
Yeah, 100%. They could just be masking their own sort of
Yeah.
insecurities as well. Like, yeah, keep
Oh,
them
dude.
humble.
Yeah, in
That's funny.
Overwatch, like It's crazy. So for Maryville, we have a big esports lab, and we play and practice and eat and stream. And basically, if you want any gaming computer access, you are in the lab with your teammates 24/7, right? And it got really bad sometimes because there would be like somebody would be really pissed at one of our tank players for like just inting for all game long. So there would be like, oh, I fucking hate this guy. He's ruining the team, and there would be like a 4-2 faction against like one player, and they don't even know it. So it's like that can destroy teams. Thankfully, we had good coaches to kind of sort that out. But it's always so interesting to me how like, yeah, I would much rather have people come up to say, I don't like the way this guy's playing or treating the situation. And if I'm just a coach, I'm not really on a team most of the time. But if they're like, he's not trying to improve, what should we do? That's where I feel like as a coach, I should be like more proactive. Be like, hey man, do you wanna sit in a one-on-one and try and figure out what's going on, and just have them go from there.
Almost need to be a mediator, or like a
Yeah,
relationship
yeah,
coach. You know?
yeah. Well, I mean, that's the word coach is there, so you have to do it. So that's how it goes. I don't know. It's just so interesting, kind of navigating different team environments. I'm of the belief that like you're not being paid to play this hobby, so you should have fun with it.
Yeah, agreed.
Especially at like, unless you're like planning to drop, thousands of dollars for a LAN and you actually want to like super take it seriously. But oftentimes, bro, like if you're just having so many negative emotions playing with somebody, you can always look for a different group through Poge or something. As shitty as that sounds, but like, it's just a season, and like I said before, good players know that is a skill in and of itself. Just play the season, disassociate, work with them in the game, and then move on.
Yeah, while
It's
still
that
trying
easy.
while still trying to like get as much of it like out of it as possible, because I've had
Yeah,
individuals that have said that like, I hate this, I'm gonna leave, and blah 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 blah. It's like we'll
yeah,
still try to get, like, it might still be a bad situation, but what can you still you can still improve, you can still focus on your own game.
yeah,
And I mean, one thing I wanted to bring up earlier was, I don't know if it's the same in NA. I'm assuming it is, but where teams will just kind of like fold and then reform slightly differently like each season, where we were talking before about the main caller being able to just say, oh, dis had second, boom, and everyone knows it. When you play with the same people over a long
Yeah.
time, you build up those details, you build up that experience together, and that constantly gets lost, and just everyone like reforms like each season and has to rebuild all that information and little tweaks, the differences between the teams. And when teams are asking me how do we kind of improve quickly, one of the things I say is just stick together.
Yeah.
That's what I
yeah.
did. That's how you just rise the ranks. Just stick together as a team, and just kind of learn those details. But yeah, you do need the kind of maybe the right team to start with, in terms of people that mesh as well and have like the
I
same objectives as you.
I think of Milky's, which was I can't remember what div they started in, but I think they kept.
I think it was Div 1.
Yeah, they had like a meteoric, if you will, type of rise from like the lower
Okay.
divs all the way up to invite over a course of a few seasons, and they had like the same core 6. Maybe they lost 1 or 2 players throughout the process, but it was like
Yeah.
it was, who was it, Luddy, Slugmundo, and a few others, and it was just at some point, having played with certain players long enough, like you get that unconscious knowing what to do, and knowing the behaviors of your teammates that um,
Just synergize.
when you take away one player, like it can throw it off, even if it's momentarily. And so I think that's one thing that unfortunately TF2 just doesn't have a teams that are willing to stick it together for a long enough time and go through the bruises of improving. And
That was kind of a Witness Gaming goal. I mean, a sub goal, but like I always wanted to kind of have a team that like lived with incentive, you know. So I feel like kind of not it's kind of being, hey, you know, you're all representing something, and if we can keep it going long enough, it'll be super recognizable, and you can actually build like a culture off of it, you know.
Yeah.
Which is unique for like, you know, a really high level TF2, but it's kind of more to the point. Yeah, I mean, staying together just so overpowered, you know, because you just learn so much about people's tendencies and what they like. Um, and like I said too, you also learn what you might not like about somebody, which is kind of again coming back to that skill set where it's like, oh, I don't like this about this person, but we got whenever we're playing, put it aside, and we can just kind of treat it like a team thing and go from there. And if it becomes too sore of a spot, team discussion. Be adults, talk about it. You know,
Agreed.
because that is a skill. Like I know it's like yeah, it is like I really hate playing with this guy. I'm in main. My demo is damage negative, double negative, drops 40 deaths every game. It's like, what do I do with this? It's like, well, just work on like, you know, entering the Zen mode. You know?
Yeah.
Learning how to kind of I feel like if you can handle that for a season and you kind of okay, we reached the pinnacle, we can finally like we got everything we needed to get out of this, we can move on. That is like that makes you a better person in my eyes
Yeah.
because you're not just quitting right away, and two, again, you're kind of massaging that ability to like tolerate when people might just be slumping or bad.
Well, yeah, I
And
mean,
yeah,
yeah. If you like if you spend your whole time in scrim saying, "Oh, hey, this one player on my team just sucks," blah blah, blah, and it's all you can think of, it's what like Jazz was saying earlier. You're not in the moment right now. You're being distracted. It's your problem. You're actually the problem if you kind of got that mindset. I think with the person as well, like in
Also, you're
game.
just going to be like looking for mistakes from
Yeah.
them.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've played on one of the earlier teams I played on. That was kind of the thing where our team leader just kind of got it in their head that our scouts were the issue and was just like constantly bringing it up. And when I was
Yep.
mentioning like that sort of blame demo review thing earlier, like we had them go out of their way to get our scouts reviewed specifically and didn't tell us that it was a scout review and was like, yeah, look at all these mistakes they're making. And it was just like a really toxic team environment.
I'll give Warped a bone here. You know, you ever notice how much better Witness Gaming EU got after we cut Mac?
Oh wow. Oh. You know, I tried to invite Mac to this episode. I mean,
I hope he hears
yeah.
that. I love that guy.
Oh, it's
No,
funny,
but
I
guys.
definitely do. Mac's one of the he's one of the few people that I've listened to do demo reviews and like, you know, I'll coach
yeah.
other teams. I'm like, yeah, this guy gets it. He's good. I like Mac a lot.
Have you guys ever, I guess, as a coach, played on a team you were coaching in like a lower div for a season?
That was
I've
supposed to be this season, but
Oh.
RGL said I'm going to get on my soapbox for half a second. RGL
Yeah, you're
said
good.
I, as a perennial IM medic who's never won a playoff series, whose highest placement was 7th, was too powerful on medic on a team with players who've played at most 2 seasons.
The RGL Secret Police is
We-
gonna be knocking at your door here soon, buddy.
And
We
you
love
know what?
how hungry
I'll
Angus is.
fist fight all of them. If you know, listen, I could take half of them in a fight.
Yeah, I was bringing that up because I remember there was a time in Highlander, me and Humphrey, who was an invite demo in Highlander, we decided to just kind of off class in main. Like I played Pyro, and I think he played like Scout or something, and it was just like we got me, him, and 7 up and comers that we all from teams that we coach because we were both coaching a lot of Highlander teams at the time, and they were all kind of dying. So we're like, let's just bring together like the best players from like 4 teams from lower divs and play a season of like main Highlander.
How did it
That's
go?
how did it go?
I think we didn't lose a single game during the regular season, and then I missed 1 week, and then the team blew up.
Many such cases.
You were the essential glue. Wow.
On
I-
Pyro,
I-
yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. I've had something pretty.
Not
I've
that it
not had
matters
that.
because it's like main Highlander, but like I think I told everybody on that team like, yeah, you're playing with 2, I guess, sandbagging players who are off classing, and you're not going to need to think a lot because we'll do the thinking for you. But this is still going to be like a learning season. Like this isn't like
Yeah.
going to be a kind of season where we go into scrims thinking, oh, we're going to win scrims. Oh, that pisses me off too. Honestly.
Oh, 100%. Thank
Like,
you.
like that's like you were asking about like pet peeves. That's my
Yeah.
biggest pet peeve, and like
Yeah.
always try and like even with like coaching newbie central, it's like, oh yeah, we're not winning our scrims. Like, bro, you don't win practice. You don't win
Yep.
practice. You don't lose
Yep.
practice. You just practice. Like that's it. And they're like, wait, so my logs don't matter? No, bro, they don't matter. Just play the game.
Yeah.
Scrim win. Scrim win.
Anyway, sorry to
scrim win.
derail you, but yeah.
Yeah,
So on
no.
topic here, just if you guys have played or like ring for a team that you coach for,
I have not quite, but I've had it before where players I've coached in the past have eventually then played on a team with me. This has happened like twice, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you used to coach me this." I was like, "Did I? I don't remember."
Yeah.
I've maybe joined one of the teams that I like coach when I've been like really drunk and they needed a medic or something. But generally, I think that'd be a no-no. But I've definitely coached players who have ended up being like way better. I think the 2 that come to mind was Polygon in EU, and in NA I did coach. I think she was called Unskilled, but is now Sin. Did she win invite, or I don't know. It'd probably be that
Sin
player.
played on Froyo.
Yeah, that player. But this was a long time ago. This would have been like, I was still at uni then, so like I don't know, 9 years ago. So I'm still claiming her as like my pupil, but yeah. But no, not played on a team I've coached outside of maybe being drunk once. But I've had players I've coached eventually been on a team with me. I don't know if anyone else has an answer to
or
that.
or just like maybe like ring for a team you coach. Because I don't know, one thing that
shouldn't
helps
do it,
me a
really.
lot. Yeah, well, I do because I like to, just get my logs packed up. Get the fat 40-15. No, but
Mhm.
don't do that. I think one skill I learned with Newbie Cup is how to kind of play down, right?
You have to slow down, 100%.
Well, and it's like it's so interesting because I think there was a thing with like the Newbie Cup for a while where some coaches would either play or get like their high div friends to play in like Newbie Cup. Like I think Sega was playing demo and soldier against my Newbie Cup team. So it's like, okay, yeah, Sega is playing like this like advanced soldier demo guy is playing against people who have like 500 hours. So it's
Yeah.
like that's not, and I don't look at that as like you don't learn anything from that, because I use that as examples. Like, look what this guy is doing in this situation. Here's why he's doing it, and here's why it's good.
Yeah, you can definitely.
Sometimes better players just don't miss, and that's why they're better. Right? But what I try and kind of highlight is whenever I play with my teams, whenever it comes up in Highlander over sixes, is I kind of like take a back seat and just kind of like see how it feels to play with the information they're giving me. Take note of how I feel in certain situations. Like, hey, I feel like we're missing this, and then I'll kind of give my feedback based on what I feel like is or is not being said. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
you're kind of like getting like a textile feel of it almost.
Yeah,
'cause,
probably getting into the coaching role, like playing with them. Yeah, you'd learn
Yeah.
pretty quickly what the kind of issues are.
Yeah, like I've seen Jay like do like play med and like there's like random logs in playing med and like newcomer, or like soldier and newcomer. Yeah, Jay Hunt B playing soldier and newcomer. Guess how that goes.
Fucking blood.
Um,
Holy shit.
But it's like whenever we do that, we don't play very hard. Like, I think one thing that really kind of like made me understand like what good game sense looks like at higher levels compared to like lower levels is, I think somebody was like, we were doing like a VOD review and I was playing Scout on like product or something, and one of the scouts was watching me play. He's like, you look like you're barely even trying to get kills. But I ended that game with like 30 or something. You know, it's like I'm working so much less
Yes.
than he is because I know where to be half the time, and that's like
Yeah.
most of it. You know, so kind of like seeing somebody play like that is like, oh, maybe I'm overcomplicating things. Maybe I'm just missing in these situations. But that kind of really made me think like, yeah, there is kind of levels to this shit. You know?
It kind of reminds me what you just said about how some players make the game look effortless.
Yeah.
Where when I still just had, kick arounds in soccer, where there was like one player who was in our pickup group who was like, he's like fucking 55. He's some Brazilian guy, and he had played professionally in Brazil's second division in his mid 20s, right? And I, at the time, I was probably like 20 at the time, and so I was super athletic, and you could not do anything to this guy. He could barely move around the field, but like by whenever he would get the ball, it would just like he'd get it and immediately it's off his feet, and like you could barely even register what's happened. It's the same thing in TF2. Like, when you've got that higher level player playing with you or playing against you, like sometimes you're just like, I can't do anything. Like, or you're watching in some level of like awe or reverence of like how effortlessly the game seems to happen to them. And when I was much more of a hard grinder of the game, like those were the players that I aspired to beat and become better than, because it was like, it gave me a benchmark to judge myself against. And I think that on your team is inspiring, because like you realize like, oh shit, I'm not anything. But then playing against it, it's like it provides like a good level of overload for you to improve against, which is why I think sandbagging as a concept is more healthy for a league than it is detrimental. But that's another rabbit hole to go down. And
Yeah.
I'll,
I kind of agree.
I'll,
I think
I'll
it's
just
bad for the
I'll refer
individuals.
I'll refer to my TFTV post and the stop restricting players at M17 thread, that post 44
Yes.
and whatever post on the third page.
Yeah, you've got a horse in this race, I'm noticing.
Yeah, I have a whole thesis. Well, it gets to the fundamental question of like what makes players improve, and it's not the coaching. I mean, the coaching can help, but fundamentally, like what makes a player improve is going up against players who are better than them at such a level where they can still manage to be competitive. Because if you put an amateur team against Froyotech, they're not going to learn anything. But if you put an amateur team against an IM team, maybe they lose 5-1, 5-2, but like there are still moments in the game where they get 2 rounds. Like fucking hell, they're competing, where they're able to match the level of the other team. Maybe in a 30-minute match, they're able to match it for 15 of those minutes, but that's still 15 minutes where like they're playing higher than what they're normally capable of, and that's where the learning occurs. And so
I would say
Yeah.
in a just world, I personally don't think like division names are kind of real. Like,
agreed.
I mean, like it doesn't matter, bro. Like it's just labels. Not to get all like
I mean, the
controversial up
difference
in here.
between like being the top of one div and the bottom of the next div really
That's what I'm
comes down
saying.
to
That's what I'm,
how
or even like
much.
the middle. Like I
It's
don't know,
just
bro.
like personal preference to what, if
So
you want to be the one
if
getting
you
rolled
are a
into the
top
gutter or
newcomer
like the
team,
winner.
yeah, like if you are a top 3 newcomer team, you are probably maybe like a this is like a stretch maybe, but I feel like you could be middle to top IM as well. You know what I mean? Like they just be
Yeah.
they just be letting anybody in there. But
Yeah.
in an ideal world, to me, it's like, okay, sandbagging is great, sure. It's kind of slippery slope-ish. I think there's like a middle ground that has to be regulated, but ultimately, like I'm okay with my players playing as better players in like simulated team environments because
So
Pugs
do you
pugs
think
are
that?
different, in my opinion, for like lower divs because like you're not really playing with who you're used to playing with against better players, like an individual almost kind of thing. But if somebody rings like somebody really good, it's like it's like what if my teammate what does my team really get about playing against Jay on Soldier and Newcomer?
Yeah. I mean,
Sorry, I like
so
ran over you twice. Go ahead.
no. Just to go over what Jazz was saying then about how you improve. Interesting. Like you're saying then that by playing against people that are just a little bit better than you, it kind of pushes your sort of comfort zone, I guess, or like
Yes.
your experience. I like that. That's an interesting one for me. Like I think if I'm getting people to improve, asking how do I do it, I could go into details, but for me it's the kind of that reflection process. It's like how quickly do you pick up new behaviors. It's also just it's time on the mat. It's just time in the server just playing, as well. Like just the more you play, the more you will improve. Like up until a point, you can like go too hard or burn out. But if someone just practices their mechanics for a little bit each day, is scrimming regularly, then
The
that's I think
Meckies.
just those two
Yeah.
things for me is
It.
how you're going to
Yeah.
improve
it
quickest. So I don't know if
I.
anyone else has anything on
Oh,
that. But
I have some
I.
stuff, but
Let,
Jez can go first here.
yeah. I think you're true. What you say is true to some level because if my mechanics are sharpening every day and we're scrimming like we're doing we're going to improve, it then just becomes a question of like who are we scrimming and like what is the actual demands placed on our team.
okay,
um because in order to think about weightlifting, right? if i
What's that?
yes, increase
if I'm
resistance. Yeah,
yeah, increase the resistance and your ability to lift heavier is going to improve. Same thing within TF2. Like you have to play against the better players in order to improve. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that every scrim or match has to be an overload, but you do have to incorporate the
push it.
overload into it. And I think there's an argument for. I got really interested in periodization within sports science of like when to have an overload, when to have a load, and when to have an underload. And I want to work on that with TF2 if I had more time. Unfortunately,
That's
I have
interesting.
a life. But I think um, within within just the concept of playing the game, I think there's immense value in having a foil team within a division or foil players within a division that you have to play matches against. I'm going to be quoting my own post here, but it is relevant. I ran a no scrim team in intermediate for like 5 or 6 seasons, and most of everybody on that team was like, we played the game enough that like all the situations that were happening were intuitive, and so like we had a bunch of old heads. We had Giggly Guy, if you guys remember Giggly Guy,
Oh
big
my
gig,
gosh, yeah.
yeah, and we were kind of the villains of the div to some teams because it's like, well, they've been playing IM for 5 seasons straight, and so on and so forth. And you know, a couple players would I spoke to afterwards, and they're like, yeah, your team was the one we wanted to beat the most because we were the benchmark. Like if you could beat us, you
Yeah.
could go play at a higher level. Um, and so I think when there are restrictions levied on players within a division based off of past performance on other teams, we're robbing the players who are up and coming of the opportunity to play against those players and get overloaded. I think as far as restrictions are concerned, like the question that has to be asked is, will this player or players' presence in the division on this specific team make the division more competitive or less competitive? If it's an invite scout being dropped into main, like that's going to make the games less competitive. But if it's like an advanced soldier being dropped into main, it'll probably make it a little bit more competitive. It'll still be challenging. Or if it's a perennial IM med who's never won a playoff series being dropped into a team of 2 seasoned players, like that's gonna make the game more competitive, because the other players are going to have to figure out how to play with somebody who plays at a higher level, and the other team are going to have to figure out how to play against a guy who knows when to leave. Like, so we're restrictions. I think I agree with Witness. Like, you can't have this laissez-faire attitude to it, but you can't unnecessarily restrict it, especially with RGL. Like, you get restricted if you place 4th place in division. There are some seasons where there's only 8 teams in the division. Like, what the fuck, you know? And one other point that I was going to make, and I'll open the floor up, is that I think scrims and matches are different as well.
Yep.
And matches are where you fundamentally make the most development, because you can play with less risk in scrims, because that's your opportunity to try new stuff. You know, running heavy to goalie wash last, which is a personal favorite of mine. Whereas with matches, because there is money on the line, so to speak.
Pressure.
Yeah, there's stakes, there's pressure. You fundamentally have to play different. Not necessarily different, but like the developmental stimulus that is provided by a league match versus a scrim is different and forces adaptation in different ways. And you know, when divisions are smoothed out so that nobody's having to face a player who's a little bit too much better than they are, like we're really missing out on the opportunities for players to improve, for players to grow. And as a result, like the health of the league suffers and the ability of players to improve goes down. So ideally, last point,
Yep.
Ideally, if you think of steps, think of a staircase. The top and bottom of each division, of the top of one division, should be at least roughly equivalent to the bottom to middle of that division. Whereas when you're adding restrictions, so it's more like a smooth climb. When you add restrictions, you turn it into hard steps, so that when players go to a higher division, having never experienced higher level play except in like maybe scrims or whatever, they actually have to spend more time adapting rather than less. Like, it should be kind of a smooth sail up the divisions, and instead it's like you go up, it's jagged. You go up to the next step, it's just jagged, disconnected process. So
it's a fascinating point about kind of pushing your what you're like capable of to like improve. But I just want to, just before Rumpus goes, Rumpus, do you have any like?
Jazz, by the way. Sorry. Sorry,
we'll link the article. But Rumpus, do you have any bits of advice that you would give to players, like how their best practices for like improving in general?
Let's see. So a couple things. I find that people oftentimes, and we did mention like how sometimes there's some tension, I guess, or friction when someone gets reviewed by maybe like a div up, and then you have to unlearn some of that. But I do think a lot of people try and chase like the top coach or mentor that they possibly can get, and like 90% of the advice they're going to give you if you're like a lower div player is going to be the exact same as someone like 2 divs above you, where like if you're not tracking Ubers and you're caught to disad, or you don't know where to play on certain points, then like, yeah, getting mentoring from an invite player or prem player is not going to help you as much, or that much more than someone just a couple divs up. And what else? Yeah, I mean, getting better is something that you have to like actually want to do and like actively do. And yeah, you just have to actually like be willing to think about your decisions as you're making them in the game. Be willing to accept when things go wrong and learn from them, I guess. I think the number one thing really is like getting to the point where you can do something in game and think about that decision, rather than just separating. Like in the game, you're just kind of doing whatever, it's a blur, and then after the fact you review. When you can blend the two together, I think it helps a lot.
I'd like to summarize that as like intentionality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I quite like that. If you've got to run away now, please
do.
do. Don't let us hold you. I'd like
Nope.
to no, thank you for
Appreciate your
joining us.
interest.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
have
I'll
Guys.
quickly send the question to Witness now. What would you say to players if they're looking to improve? What do you think they should focus on?
yeah, I will say I probably have like about 20 minutes, and then we probably wrap
Yeah,
it
no.
up. But so this is coming from me as just like a newbie cup coach, where you're in a situation where okay, you are given a team of completely smooth brains to work with, right? Like like you're given people who have only ever played like Uncletopia, maybe a pug, maybe no pugs, maybe they like only have like bare minimum 500 hours, right? Okay. I think a lot of improvement in TF2 just naturally comes from playing the game. Like that's just a fact. So there's a joke among the coaches in the newbie cup where they have a thing called like the witness mines. And the mines are very dark and very cold and not very fun to be in, but all my players from those newbie cups either place or runner up or even get for like that. Those have been my results in those cups. And it's consistent enough to point out that my system is this. If you are a new player and you want to see a lot of improvement, just NGE a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. Like my biggest focus is mechanics at like lower levels,
Okay.
just to start with. Um, like I will do like I'll get everybody from this newbie cup team, every team on board, and I'll be like, hey, if you guys are able, like 2 hours before scrims, let's hop in a DM server or hop in MGE and just go like hyperbolic time chamber, just straight up 2 hour MGE grind session
Wow.
for 4 days a week into 8:30, 9:30, 10:30 scrim. For
That's intense.
for like 6 days a week for 3 weeks.
I'm going insane just thinking about that. By the
Yeah,
way,
that's
Yeah,
I mean it's super
yeah,
keen. You'd probably
yeah.
improve pretty quickly, to be fair.
They get really good, and I kind of lay off like later. I'm like, hey, and a lot of it's like, hey, this is like a simulated like mini season, so we have like we only have 3 weeks, maybe even 2 weeks to like get all this in. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be that hard, by the way. Like, but I will say, if you are grinding, like I got really good, just just like in high school, because I would just live in DM servers for like I would get off high school at like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, come home, eat dinner, and around like 5 o'clock, I would just be in like DM servers from probably 5 all the way up to like 8 or 9. Just
Wow.
living in there, like playing Scout constantly. I like DM servers more than MGE because I think it makes your like awareness of like the micro a lot better. I only ever MGE one person. I only have ever like seriously MGE Jay. I only beat him twice. In probably like 6 years. But that I say like kind of really hitting it hard like mechanically at lower levels is one of the best ways to just get better across anything. Like I tell people like just get really good at scout. Like like getting really good at scout makes you good at like almost every class in the game, right?
Yeah, I think improving at one would then benefit improving at the others. I do
Yeah.
agree with that. I mean, me personally, I wouldn't recommend probably going quite
No,
so hard.
no,
And
that's why
I would
that's
say
why it's the
DM
mines.
is better.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Because
is the mines for sure. Like that's the example I use for the newbie cups. It's like specifically, and those kids like every single time they have like a guy who does like log stats, right? So they take the logs of everybody who's joining prior to the cup, usually 0, right? and week to week they track how many like scrim logs or how many like pug logs you have prior to joining the cup to whatever week it is. Every single time my teams have had like the most logs from the start of the cup.
Helpful.
Yeah, it's a lot, but it works. It's just, what are you willing to sacrifice, you know?
Yeah, no, I think there is something to be said about being on the grind. At my stage now, I'd probably limit it more and say you can probably get quite a lot out of just half an hour worth of grind.
Oh
I think,
yeah.
yeah, so I think there's definitely a point where there's diminishing returns, but regular, certainly, like most days, I
Mm.
think time practicing mechanics does help. But my way I would think about it is, if you have better mechanics and you have a perfectly fair fight, instead of it being a 50-50%, you might now have a like 60%, 40% of winning that.
Oh,
Whereas
it helps for sure.
I don't take fights that aren't like 80%. I will try to like find those situations where it's just, you just have such a big advantage. The difference of mechanics doesn't make as
Oh
much of
yeah.
a difference. But I'm also coping because I'm like bad at the game. So
I'm
like,
coping.
so
Well, I always
that's
tell
just my
people,
perspective on it. But
I always say like newer players, like you guys should really just, there are 12 people in the server, there should never be a 1v1.
Yes.
Like there are, or even Highlander, like there's 18 people in the server, there should never be a 1v1. You know what I mean? So like kind of understanding that point is like super important. But yeah, like being consistent, like again, like playing the game more makes you better at the game. What a concept. Like
yeah,
The game is the best teacher, as we say in soccer.
like the Overwatch grind is insane because a lot of those guys like played for like Overwatch League teams like Dante, False, Juby, like all these guys in the Maryville program played for like Houston Outlaws, played for the LA Gladiators. False right now he's a Canadian guy. I think he's playing for a team that's going to Korea for Overwatch. Like those guys, it is literally like 2 hour blocks. Like it is VOD review, 2 hour blocks, and then they're right back into ranked after, or they're like watching the overhead VOD like immediately after, like 2 hours, 2 hours of playing, because that's just what it takes at that level. I mean, again, like I said, like this is a hobby at the end of the day. Um, if you're really into it and you really want to get better, like, and you want to spend that time, like that's your time and your hobby, but it's often never that serious. Like most of the time it's better to get better with people you enjoy playing with, you know?
right. I think just to kind of wrap it up then. So if we're got the advice from everyone, we have the intentionality from Rumpus, we have the pushing your resistance against better players from Jazz. You have the situation response, like learning from me, and you have the minds, the absolute grind from Witness. And if you do all those things, you will become the best player possible as quickly as possible. All right, I think that's all we have time for today. I just want to thank everyone. This is like a like brainchild of mine for like a while. A lot of other people have been talking about it, but it's nice to kind of sit down and listen to your takes as well, Witness, and also Jazz. I found your perspectives from like the football and how that like comes across really interesting. Just multidisciplinary coaching has been fascinating. But I think that is it for this episode, and we'll see you next time on Overtime Podcast, where we'll be discussing.